Morning and welcome. Sunshine, no rain, no wind, probably tempting fate, but it's really good to see you all here, see familiar faces in this garden. So thank you so much for coming along this morning.
Hi there. So today Keir Starmer gave a speech from the garden of number 10 Downing Street where he outlined some of the so-called difficult choices that his government was facing, not least of which was a £22 billion haul that he highlighted in the public finances. Now, those of us that follow politics closely realise that none of this was news to him. It was one of the most frustrating features of the election campaign that well-respected bodies such as the Institute for Fiscal Studies and journalists were pointing out to the Labour Party that there was this hole in the public finances that was caused really by the Conservative Party penciling in cuts to the public sector into their previous budgets, which meant that either the Labour Party was going to have to find some money in taxation, borrow more, or go ahead with those cuts. And many of us pointed out that that was a pretty untenable position for the Labour Party to be in, and that the last thing the country needed was more austerity under a Labour government. Let's start by hearing from Keir Starmer.
And if we don't take tough action across the board, we won't be able to fix the foundations of the country as we need. I didn't want to means test the winter fuel payment, but it was a choice that we had to make. A choice to protect the most vulnerable pensioners while doing what is necessary to repair the public finances. Because pensioners also rely on a functioning NHS, good public transport, strong national infrastructure. They want their children to be able to buy homes. They want their grandchildren to get a good education. So we have made that difficult decision to mend the public finances so everyone benefits in the long term, including pensioners.
I'm just going to pause it there. It seems to me that whenever politicians talk about difficult choices, they're always talking about choices like this. They're never talking about difficult choices to take on the vested interests in our society, to tax the wealthy, for example, to close tax loopholes, to do any number of things other than this that would help to bring in money to finance public services and that would secure the money for the long term. What this is picking around the edges and making the state less generous, and it's targeting those people that have paid in throughout their lives, fully expecting that the state will be there to support them in old age. It's wrong, and it's not something a Labour government should be doing, not least of all as one of their first acts. Let's continue with the speech.
Now that is a difficult trade-off, and there will be more to come. I won't shy away from making unpopular decisions now if it's the right thing for the country in the long term. That's what a government of service means. This shouldn't be a country where people fear walking down their street, their TVs showing cars and buildings being set on fire. This shouldn't be a country where the Prime Minister can't guarantee prison places. This shouldn't be a country where people are paying thousands more on their mortgages or waiting months for hospital appointments they desperately need, where our waters are filled with sewage, where parents worry that their kids won't get the opportunities that they did, where nothing seems to work anymore.
I'm just going to pause it there. Starmer's right. Clearly the public sector is not functioning very well at the moment. But in order to understand the problem, we need to have an understanding of what caused it in the first place. And what caused it is the Conservative Party, when they came into power, using a very similar logic to what we're hearing from Starmer now, they said, we need to make cuts, we need to get the deficit down, so we can get public finances under control, so that we can fix the roof, so we can get back on with investing at some point in the future. In other words, we're going to have pain now in order that we can fix things and things can be better moving forward. Well, it didn't work like that, did it? And part of the problem is that the logic of austerity is self-defeating. So lots of the cuts that you make are going to make the problem worse. And we can see this in any area of our lives. If you fail to deal with the problem early, it gets worse, and then you end up having to spend more in the future. And that was the logic of austerity, and that's what we're all dealing with now. Things did get worse, and now it's going to cost more to fix. And what we find from the Labour government is rather than investing that money that is necessary, both for their objective of getting economic growth and to get public services moving again, they're refusing to make that choice. And that's because they fundamentally fail to understand that the job of the state is to redirect the resources of our society towards the public good. They just fundamentally don't get that. And the reason why resources in our economy are not being directed towards the public good, it's got nothing to do with what we ordinarily understand as the public finances. It's to do with how those resources are distributed in our society in a very unequal way. In other words, most of the resources in our society are not held by ordinary people, they're held by the rich. And so in order to do the job that the state needs to do, it's not incidental that the state taxes wealth, it's actually a precondition of the state doing what it needs to do. So the fact that Starmer refuses to tax wealth is a fundamental problem to his programme. Right, let's continue with the video.
So when I talk about the inheritance the last government left us, the £22 billion black hole in our finances, that isn't about a line on a graph. That's about people's lives, your lives. And the Tories are still not being honest. They know their recklessness cost them the election, but they won't accept the cost that they've inflicted on the country. And they won't apologise for what they've cost you. They're just still thinking about themselves. Now, this government won't always be perfect, but I promise you this, you will be at the heart of it, in the forefront of our minds, at the centre of everything that we do. And that's why I wanted to invite you here today, to show that decent, hard-working people who make up the backbone of this country belong here. This is a government for you.
So I feel like I should apologise for subjecting you to so much of Keir Starmer, because what you end up getting is a hell of a lot of cliches and not a lot of substance, and that's how the speech felt throughout to me. Look, what we will get in the autumn statement is some nibbling around at the edges of this, because the Labour Party have said that it's not going to increase taxes on working people, and you can believe that as far as it goes. They've said they're not going to increase income tax, they're not going to increase national insurance, and they're not going to increase VAT. And so what you're going to see in the budget is attempts to shift the tax burden away from income and towards wealth, and that is welcome. But what I'm saying is that the measures that the Labour Party are going to put in place don't go far enough. And the fact that the Labour Party are making so-called difficult choices, that the first decisions they make are those that affect those that are vulnerable in our society, the elderly, it's not a very good sign of things to come. We need fundamental root and branch reform to rebalance our society so that the state can perform its vital functions for the rest of us. So that's all for now. Hope you enjoyed this very short episode, and I hope you join me again next time.